Wonderful, thank you, and good evening. My name is Viviana Loera. I'm the coordinator of parent engagement here at Napa Valley Unified School District. Tonight, we have Marianne Christofferson, our Director of Student Services, that's along with a panel of others that are going to provide us some information on social media education. But prior to that, I'd like to go ahead and have Claudia do our announcement for translation, please. Claudia. And with that, Marianne, I'll go ahead and pass the information to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Viviana. We appreciate it very much. Good evening, everyone. And again, thank you so much for your patience while we figured out our technical difficulty. I'm Marianne Christofferson. I'm the Director of Student Services for Napa Valley Unified School District, and we are super happy to be here tonight to present much information about social media and teen use of. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Darlene Aliyah, who is a detective with the Napa Police Department. And she just waved. Hi, Darlene. And
Hello.
I'd like to also introduce Drew Herron, who is the coordinator of student welfare and attendance. And last, but surely not least, Tony McIntosh, who is also works for our Napa Police Department in the Youth Services Bureau. So the Napa Police Department are our partners in so much, but especially tonight in this presentation. So we're really delighted that you're both here. And the dynamic duo is sitting together for this presentation. So we appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So if you would advance, start the slideshow, Megan, that'd be great. Next slide. And next slide. Perfect. All right. So why are we here tonight? We are here tonight because we are seeing an uptick this school year, more so than last, in cyberbullying and harassment online with students. So we thought that we would speak to the challenge that we're having and get our parents on board to help us understand the problem and hopefully help us support through education how we can decrease some of the cyberbullying that's happening. Tonight, we will also talk about when students share inappropriate photos or pictures online. And I just want to mention our target audience tonight is middle and high school age students, of course, our parent community, our stakeholders, but we do not believe that some of the content tonight is really appropriate for elementary age students. Parents, we're going to let you make that decision on what you allow your student to view or not view, but we just wanted to say that out loud so you were aware. Next, we want to educate our parent stakeholders with the following: social media facts, how students are using social media platforms, their use, and also we're seeing a lot of abuse of those social media platforms, that parents are legally responsible for their student and their use of social media. And parents, we want to give you, the power to say, if you're not using your phones correctly and appropriately, you have every right to monitor their use and also take away the use of the phone if they're not using it appropriately. We want to review how to monitor your student's cell phone and or device. And we'll talk about the securely notification system later in the slides coming up, and then how to protect your student. So those are the goals of this evening. And so we will begin to talk about that. And I'm going to hand off to Drew.
Thank you. So as we get older and become more aware of the social media that's happening out there with our students, it is very apparent that, a lot of kids are on it. And a study in 2021 shows that 95% of our teens use social media. And then we can attest, based off some of the things that we've been dealing with, that a lot of our students in our school district are definitely on social media. Popular sites here that are listed: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat are all popular. But the one thing that always seems to happen with social media is there's always something new that comes out. So maybe a lot of us are Facebook users now, but our kids will never, probably say, "Oh, we don't do that. That's for our parents to use." So really pay attention to what your kids are using. It might be good just as a tip to also, have your own account just so you're able to kind of monitor what they're doing. The other statistic here is that the social media addiction has definitely increased. And you just watch how students interact in their social media, how they're about ready to post something that they have it, and they would have a hard time giving it up. So it's really important that, especially with our younger students that are in middle school, and even for our high school students, that we are doing all we can to not just make sure that they're being safe, but we're also monitoring what they're doing so that what they're doing is appropriate, and really kind of keeping aware about what it is exactly that they're doing on these platforms. Next slide.
Thank you, Drew. I wanted to talk a little bit about ed code and board policy. And so I wanted to explain the difference between the two. And so when we look at board policies, there's statements that really set forth our purpose, and they're described in general terms for our programs of our school system here in NVUSD, and we're governed by them. And so they create a framework in which the superintendent and staff can really implement all of the board policies, and that takes us into California Ed Code. And I did attach I just picked 3 that I thought would be appropriate for this presentation tonight. So there's board policy on bullying, and it really talks and explains what our policy is. Of course, of not doing that, we don't want to encourage bullying. Our non-discrimination and harassment policy, and then our student use of technology. And those are all linked in. Those are live links, and this is recorded, this presentation tonight, and it will also be available on our website. So you'll be able to open these links at a later time. There's a lot of text to these, and I don't want to go through them all because we would probably be here till about 10 o'clock tonight. So, but I did want you to let you know that there is board policy, and then the Ed Code are a collection of laws related to California K-12 public schools. And Ed Code sections are created and changed by our governor and our legislature when they make laws. So local school boards, such as ours, and County Office of Education are responsible for complying to these laws and provisions. So again, this is how we're governed. And then the last item on this slide is we do have a securely notification program or platform. And so all of our students are one-to-one right now with devices, with Chromebooks, and we have to make sure that they're using their Gmail and the internet in a safe manner. And so what the securely notification program does is it will detect and filter anything that is of violence to a person or a group of people, or if we are concerned with a student who may be feeling suicidal, that we are notified and we get emails, and then we reach out to our school sites to provide support through our wellness program. So we do work in concert with each other, and we work very closely with the Napa Police Department to also support some of the issues and challenges that we're seeing with harassment and bullying online. So I just wanted to kind of explain the differences between those so you had some background. And you can find board policy on our district website, and go to the Board of Education, and you will be able to see all the board policies. And then Ed Code you can do an internet search for California Ed Code, and you will find a plethora of laws that we have to govern. All right, thank you so much for listening to the background on Ed Code and board policy.
So some of the top social media used by teens, Mr. Heron has already discussed, but the basic ones are Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Discord, and Telegram. And these are just a few. There are thousands out there. And there are so many. One of the main ones that people have been using a lot is they're ones where kids are just talking to strangers. They have no idea who they're talking to, just different things. You really need to monitor what your teen is doing on these devices. You know, I can't stress how important that is. And when you're checking their phones, I also caution you to look. Teens, for the most part, have more than one account. They may have Snapchat, but they may have 3 or 4 different accounts. So please check the phones. Next slide, please.
So I think we've established that there are a lot of different social media platforms, but the one thing that, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with having social media, because this is a public space, right? There is no real privacy that you have. Anything you post out there is out there, and it's out there forever. I remember we used to talk about with my own kids that if you're not okay with it, your grandmother reading it on the front page of the newspaper, then you probably shouldn't be posting it. So that it creates a snapshot of who you are. And these are things that as kids get older that can follow them as they become adults and they're applying for jobs. Human resources departments are searching through the internet to check out their employees. They have some special ways that they're able to do that. So this is their brand that they're creating now. Even though they're just a kid, there could be something that someone finds offensive. So it's really important that they understand that they do have some real responsibility with what they are posting. The other part is that freedom of speech does not mean you're freedom from consequences. And, you know, when students are posting things about school, there can be consequences from school. If there's ever a nexus where it connects back to school, there can be some school consequences that can be attached to it. So it's really important that, you know, it's great for keeping up with friends, and you know, there's lots of positive things that can come out of social media, but also that there is a lot of responsibility with it. And just because you set it on your social media platform after school hours doesn't mean that there's not a nexus to school where the school might get involved because it's creating a unsafe or an environment that is not good for learning. Next slide.
So there can be crimes associated with juveniles' use of social media. We're seeing more and more juveniles becoming perpetrators through social media, as well as victims. One of the main things that we are dealing with in our junior high school and sometimes down into our elementary school, depending upon whether or not they have phones, is the increase in cyberbullying. So when the cyberbullying increases, this increases the risk of self-harm and suicide in our juveniles. Cyberbullying can be done either directly or indirectly. It can be somebody saying something horrible about another person, another student, and then somebody else posting it. Just because that person didn't say it, or that student didn't say it about the other student, they posted it online to a public forum. That's a form of cyberbullying. We're seeing harassing statements and photos where they'll take photos of each other and then they post them into social media and they make fun of each other. It's a form of cyberbullying. And then it allows others to join in and continue the bullying. You know, back in the day before social media, you would have these incidences centralized within a small group. But now with the internet and social media, it can be widespread, and you can have people from all over the world joining in with this cyberbullying. Sexual images. So sending and receiving, what we're seeing a lot of is young juveniles boyfriend or girlfriend, they send pictures back and forth thinking that, it's just my boyfriend or girlfriend. And a week later they break up, and then those pictures start getting shared. And then once they're out there, they can't be taken down. And kids will save them in their phones. We've seen photos come up 2-3 years later from an incident that happened, and it just doesn't ever go away. So it's really important that we educate our children that, one, it's inappropriate to be taking pictures of yourself. 2, it's illegal to be taking pictures of yourself. 3, it's illegal to be sharing those pictures. And then what we're seeing an increase in is these photos are being shared with strangers, and then that stranger will extort them for money. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is when they extort them for money or information when via inappropriate images. And then we're seeing a really large increase in illegal drugs and nicotine sales through these social media accounts. You have to understand your children are now being able to access people from anywhere, people that they wouldn't normally have access to. These social media accounts are posting images of the illegal drugs they're selling, the nicotine vapes, and literally all our children have to do is send them a message and say, hey, I'm interested. And they will meet them, they will give them money, and they will get their hands on marijuana. We're seeing marijuana gummies and vapes. They're getting pills, fentanyl laced pills. That's the one danger that we've got right now with these pills. We don't know what's in them. And then obviously the nicotine vapes, which we're seeing in our middle school sect is a huge increase in that. So in those social media apps that you saw earlier, a couple of them are designed for disappearing messages. Your Snapchat and Telegram, those messages disappear and they can't be recovered. So it's really important that our parents educate themselves on what their children are doing in these apps, and educate yourself on what that app does, and if it does have disappearing messages, so that you can stay on top of it. Next slide, please. So cyberbullying is the ongoing targeted harassment via digital communication tools that is meant to make the victim feel bad. This is what we use when we see this happening in our schools. We have charged juveniles for this crime when it becomes egregious. And so it's really important that our students understand that there is a zero tolerance for this. It can be done on multiple platforms. It may not just be on Instagram. It may be on Instagram and Snapchat and on Discord. So it can be happening on different social media platforms, and it can be happening from different perpetrators. And it is a crime in California. It can result in a punishment of up to 6 months in jail or juvenile hall if they are convicted of that crime. Next slide.
So, everybody always says, well, why do kids do this? Why do you do that? And there's lots of reasons. It could be many: to gain attention, get social standing. All of a sudden, this kid that nobody liked, you start doing this and you've got all of these followers. You want to feel powerful. You're angry at someone, and this is the way that you get back. And it's a lot easier to say something on social media than it is to someone's face. And I see that all the time. Things that kids wouldn't say to their face, they have no problem saying on social media. Sometimes things start out, you start out as a joke, but then it morphs into something else. And the next thing you know, it's got a life of its own. And, last but not least, some kids do it because they've been bullied, and this is their way of getting revenge. But more than anything, and I think parents need to stress this with their children, is that if it is not something that you would say to their face, don't ever post it on social media. Next slide, please.
So what can you do as a parent when your child is experiencing some type of harassment or bullying online? It's very important you start to have these conversations with your kids, especially the younger ones, when they're first getting into social media, and having that open dialogue with them so that they feel comfortable to come to you if they are experiencing some type of harassment or cyberbullying online. what you can do and what your child can do is you can block and report those posts. Each social media platform has some type of way to report either an account or an actual post. So it's really important you as parents familiarize yourself with each of the social media accounts your child is using so that you understand the process on how to block and report certain posts. Take screenshots. Your children can show you how to do that if you don't know how to. That can come into play if it becomes something where we as law enforcement have to get involved. Screenshots will help us in a future investigation to determine maybe who the person is, maybe account names of the people that are doing the bullying, and save any threads. So a lot of times it'll be done through private messaging and stuff. So again, saving that content, taking screenshots of all that. And as a parent, if you hear this information from your child, or if your child comes to you, or even if you hear of another child that this is happening to, it's really important you contact the school administration right away. Or you can contact the police department and we can help to resolve the situation or to determine whether or not there needs to be some type of investigation that is initiated. Next slide. Next slide.
Okay. Sexual images, it's basically known as sexting, and this can be in a lot of forms, but the definition is sexting is the sending of nude or sexually motivated messages by electronic means, cell phone, computer, whatever, to another person. And it's, everybody's, or I shouldn't say everyone, the common misnomer is it's just, sending nude pictures or whatever. We see a lot of students and they think that it's funny. You're in the restroom and you're taking a picture of someone using the restroom. That could be considered sexting, all of these things. And it may start out as a joke, but it's illegal. We see a lot of use, and I think it was mentioned earlier that, oh, I'm dating Johnny or Susie or whoever, and we're in love and we're going to be together forever. And 3 weeks later, you break up, and all of a sudden, these pictures are out. You have to be careful. You should never, ever send pictures. And that's something that I think parents need to discuss with their students. And again, I go back to checking phones. You check everything on that phone. On the slide, it continues. Oftentimes, the images will be shared on social media as a form of bullying. And we talked about that a little, and this leads to the sextortion, and it can't be deleted once it's on the internet. It never, ever goes away. I make reference to a juvenile that I worked with many, many, many years ago. And this young lady was a senior, and she and her boyfriend had been dating all through high school. So they assumed they were going to get married, and they were sending photos to each other, nude photos. They went to college and it didn't work out. And somehow these pictures got leaked. It was probably about 10 years later, and this young lady had a job, and she had a very good job. She was working for Google as a vice president. These photos reappeared probably 15 years later, and it cost her her job. And it took a toll on her mental health. So these pictures never, ever go away. Anything posted on your social media sites never goes away. Next slide, please.
So what is sextortion? Many people have not heard that. We hear it quite a bit at the police department, and it's not just juveniles that are experiencing sextortion. This is also happening to adults as well. But what we're seeing with our young children is they don't have the mental capacity to understand what is going on or to seek help or what to do. So it's the practice of extorting money or sexual favors from someone by threatening to reveal evidence of their sexual activity or sexual photos. You share some photos of yourself with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and 2 weeks later you break up, and that boyfriend or girlfriend says, if you don't do A, B, and C. I'm going to show your pictures to I'm going to post them on Snapchat, or I'm going to post them on Instagram. We're also seeing some stranger type sextortion where our children are meeting unknown people in these chat rooms on Snapchat, and they get talked into sending photos of themselves, sexually explicit photos of themselves. And that person in turn ends up being an adult and then tells them, you need to send me money, get your mom's credit card, or I'm going to post all of your pictures on Instagram or Snapchat. And these children don't know what to do, and they will go and they'll get credit cards, whatever they need to do to keep these pictures from being leaked. So the most current statistics from the FBI from 2022 was over 3,000 minor victims. 3 in the 4 victims were male. So we're seeing a huge increase in our males being extorted in this type of capacity. More than a dozen victims died by suicide. What happens is these children cannot understand that there is a way out, there is a way to help, and they think that there is no other way, and their pictures are going to be leaked and everybody's going to make fun of them, and their parents are going to be disappointed. And unfortunately they just don't have the reasoning to think through it. And unfortunately they take their own lives because they feel that there is no other way out. Over 60% of them knew their perpetrator. And this is a crime that is very rarely reported to the police department. We are starting to see an uptick in it, but it's very rare that we have juveniles who report this crime to the police department. So it's really important as parents that you have these conversations with them. But also as a parent, you should be checking your child's phone, and you should be looking through their phone, and you should be looking at whatever pictures they have in their phone. So it's really important that you understand what is being sent through your child's phone. Next slide. And so earlier we talked about boyfriend, girlfriend sharing images back and forth. A lot of our juveniles don't understand, and some of our parents don't understand, that is a crime. It is a crime that can be punished. It is a crime that we have punished juveniles for. The penal code states that sending sexual images of a minor under the age of 18, even if it's of yourself, is against the law. So just because you're taking your own picture and you're sending it, if you're under 18, you are disseminating, you're sending out child pornography. Teens who exchange sexually explicit photos of themselves via cell phone or other electronic devices can be and have been charged with child pornography crimes. I have personally charged several juveniles with this because it was our one way to, one, stop the behavior, but 2, to help get them into services to help them understand how this is wrong. And it's also an educational portal for us with the parents and the student. But one of the most important things is the importance of this is your child could be required to register as a sex offender. So that's how serious this is, because once these images are out there, they're out there forever. And it is child pornography, and we take that very seriously. Next slide. So we talked about illegal drug sales and purchases through the social media. So 1 in 3 youths in states with legal recreational marijuana engage with brands on social media. So what that means is our youth are on social media and they're seeing these music stars or these actors or celebrities or sports stars that they idolize, and they're all using marijuana or some form of marijuana, or they're making songs about marijuana. So it's constantly in their face when they are on social media. Every time they open up social media, they're seeing something about marijuana. 75% of our teens seeing the photos and videos of celebrities and youth are more likely to use. So because they're seeing this, they idolize their celebrity, they idolize their pro athlete. And so they think, oh, you know, they're able to do it and have a functioning life, so it must be okay for me to do it. And then 95% of the cases being worked related to the sale of marijuana to teens involves the use of social media. That's our current caseload at the police department. That's where that statistic comes from. So 95% of my cases that are involving sales of marijuana to teens it's all done through social media. This isn't them meeting, Joe Smith on the corner and doing a hand-to-hand buy. This is them contacting, they see somebody post on social media that they're selling marijuana. They contact them through a direct message, and then they arrange to meet, exchange money, and then the juvenile gets the marijuana. Next slide.
To piggyback on what Detective Alaya was speaking of, we have a lot of juveniles that are meeting up with strangers. And again, 98% of this is done through some type of social media. And it's done, as was stated earlier, to purchase some type of narcotics, cannabis, or nicotine products. And what we have been finding is it's readily accessible. So, the youth, the juveniles don't understand. They will give their home address. We have lots of times found that right under, the parents, the youth are sending their address to whoever, and they come to the house and they deliver it. Sometimes they will, have a special hiding place. They'll put it in the mailbox or whatever. But these are people they don't know. They're coming to your house because your child is giving out the home address. And most of these folks are adults, and they have no idea who they are. No idea. So you have all of these people that are coming to your house, and what's juveniles don't understand also, they're sharing all of this. Some of these people are very sophisticated. They can get IP addresses. They can do lots of things. And everything that happens on the internet, people are not always honest. They may be telling your child that, oh, I'm 15 years old, and they gain your child's confidence. And it turns out after your child decides to meet them, they're 50 years old. Parents need to be aware. Next slide, please.
So some of the other things that we are seeing through social media that our kids are getting a hold of is mushrooms. Mushrooms are making a comeback. They're very popular. They're easy to hide. So we're seeing an increase of that. So pills. So if you're looking through your child's phone and you see messages regarding perks, so that's short for Percocets, Oxys, which are Oxycontins, Xannies, which would be Xanax. Those are the popular pills that our kids are purchasing through strangers on social media. Cocaine, fentanyl, what we're finding is a lot of the Percocets and the Xanax are possibly laced with fentanyl. So there's the danger of that. The flavored nicotine vapes and guns. So just to touch on the guns, I've had a couple cases where our youth have used social media to contact somebody to purchase guns, and they've met with that person to purchase the gun. I think it's really important for our parents to understand that we had a case last year where we had an adult male who was driving around selling marijuana to over 100 of our youth. That's how I got through his Instagram. Over 100 of our youth, he was selling marijuana to him. When we finally arrested him, he had a gun in his car with an extended magazine. So this is somebody who was driving to these juveniles' homes or meeting them on school campuses, selling the marijuana with a gun in the car. So this is how dangerous it is that our children have access to this and are able to contact these strangers to purchase narcotics. Next slide.
So one resource that we have for being able to report some of these things is tip 411. Tip 411. You might recognize some of these posters during back to school nights or open houses. We have these posters up in all our classrooms and hallways, all through all of our campuses. And it's very simple. You put in the number 847-411, which is tip 411. You type in 707 NPD for Napa Police Department, and then your message. And this could be used by students. It could also be used by parents. You have this information tonight, as Marianne mentioned, that this presentation, along with these slides, will be available to parents on our website. So you can always circle back to this. If you overhear your son or daughter are talking about some stuff and you feel, it's important for someone to know, use this. It does work. We have helped many students through this app, just to make sure they're either safe, or if there's something that we need to do to make our campuses safe. So it's a very effective tool, and it is anonymous. So it can be used to report people doing illegal activity on social media, and we advertise it for the kids, but it very much can be used by our parents. Next slide.
So we keep talking about looking in your child's device, but as a parent, you're like, well, what am I looking for? So what we want you to look for is we want you to check what apps are on your child's device. Get to know the functions of whether if they have an Apple or an Android device or an iPad. Look at what apps that they have on that device so that you have an understanding of what it is they're accessing. When you're opening these apps and looking in these apps, like Tony said earlier, identify all of the accounts. We find that a lot of our juveniles have multiple accounts. They may have Instagram, they may have 3 or 4 different Instagram accounts. Access the apps and look at the messages. So go into these apps and look at the messaging feature on them and see what type of messages your child is sending back and forth with people to determine whether or not there are some areas of your concern, or maybe to start a conversation with your child. If you see something that might start to be a little concerning, you can talk to them about it. View their profile on that social media so that you can see what it is that they're posting out to everybody to see. Are they putting things on there that are inappropriate for their age? That may be giving the wrong type of signal of, something that you want out there on the internet, as we talked about, in our future lives. Once it's out there, we can't get it back. So monitoring what they're putting on their profiles. Check their photos. That is one of the most important things. You should be able to look in the camera roll. I know for iPhones, there is a hidden file in their photos. There's hidden photos. Check that. Look in that. You have to have the passcode for it. You better know the passcode as a parent. And if you don't get the passcode from the child, then your child should not have that phone. That is where they're hiding stuff that they don't want to see. Look in their recently deleted photos. Again, that is where you will find things that they don't want you to see. Specifically for Snapchat. Snapchat has a section in the photos. It's called For My Eyes Only. This gives the user the opportunity to put photos in there that don't show up on the phone, that aren't in their camera roll, that only exist in Snapchat. And there is a passcode on that folder. So this will have a separate passcode from their phone. If your child has this on their Snapchat, you should be looking in that and you should be able to access that, because that is where we're finding the most problematic photos that we're coming across in our office. Each social media app has a how-to guide. There will be some links at the end of this that will have some how-to guides for some of them, but it's very easy to just go to the internet for that social media account, for that social media app, and look at a how-to guide, and it will explain how to access these functions. Next slide. So the dangers of social media. So there's a great documentary out there. I encourage all parents to watch it. Unfortunately, it's a little bit older. There may be a new one coming out. It's called Childhood 2.0. It's a documentary about how social media mentally damages our children. I encourage you to watch this with your children. This is real teenagers talking about what social media has done to them. I think it's important for parents to know that the CEOs and the heads of these social media companies publicly have made statements for the last several years that they don't allow their children on social media because of the damage it does to our youth. So if the people that are creating these apps don't even let their own children on there, then that should be a clue as to what this is doing to our youth. So are we able to click on that link right there just to play the trailer so our parents can see? There it goes.
A long time ago, families were in communities. They were local, they were small.
I was born in the very depths of the Great Depression. I was put to work carrying wood, carrying water. I knew how to shell peas. I knew how to break beans. We still didn't have electricity.
I have 2 Instagram accounts.
I use Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
TikTok and Fortnite.
I can just scroll for hours on end.
11 hours a day.
It's been 8, 9.
Maybe like 12.
It's actually been a way that we can keep track of them out there in the real world where things really are scary.
The lives of kids were sort of changing slowly for a while, and then all of a sudden, most kids were able to get on social media, and that's when everything skyrocketed.
The rates at which they're experiencing problems continues to increase.
We also know that the teen suicide rate increased 56%.
Last year alone, we received over 18 million reports of international and domestic online child sexual abuse.
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh.
Pretty much every guy has like an addiction to it, but no one talks about it.
But it's just faster now, and it's younger.
Well, yeah, like nudes of girls go around the school all the time.
At the beginning of the year, there were multiple suicides before school even started.
There were men that wanted to talk to children at all hours of the day and night.
Don't be shy.
On Snapchat, one thought it'd be a funny idea to talk the other one into committing suicide, and she did it. She's dead.
After about 6 weeks, we were able to crack his phone.
Kids right now are going to experience the worst of what we're going through.
I'm a little nervous.
It's the first for everything.
Do you think your parents know that this happens?
No. My kid won't do that. My kid would never. My kid's school isn't like that. You're wrong.
Because what they see, they feel neurologically compelled to do.
Right now, we're effectively living in an experiment. How is this going to affect us? We'll find out.
Thank you. So at the end of the presentation, there is a link so that it will take you back and you can watch that full documentary. So I encourage every parent to watch it, and I encourage you to watch it with your children. Next slide, please.
So with all of this being said, you're probably wondering, okay, what can I do to help protect my child? You need to be very aware. They should, if they're using devices, you should be monitoring what they're doing. A lot of kids will have two, 3 screens open at a time when they're supposed to be doing their homework. Make sure you're checking what they're doing. If you're going to charge their device, charge it in your room. I'm a personal proponent of kids shouldn't have phones in their room at night. I get this all the time, especially when we go to truancy court and kids are up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because they're on their phones. They shouldn't have them at night. The parents should have control over this. You know, and I'm going to deviate a little bit, but parents need to understand their child owns nothing until they're 18. You have the right to take their phone. Doesn't matter if they bought it. And that's what you need to remember. You are in charge. And if you get nothing else from this tonight, Detective Alaya and I are giving you permission to be parents and take their phones. Again, getting back. So know what you can do as far as parental controls. Each phone has various things. If you go down to, what is it? AT&T, Verizon, they can go over that with you. There's spyware and monitoring apps. And these are things that you can put on phones. And these things tell you every single thing that goes on a phone. Every keystroke is monitored. So what your child sends out, what is being received, all the apps that they're on, what's happening on those apps and everything. And that is a very, very good way to keep your children safe and to know what's going on. And, you know, I hear a lot of my child would never do that. And we heard that in the video. You would be surprised what your child may be doing. And there's links that you can access at the end of this presentation to various spyware apps and monitoring apps. We have things like easy .com, Bark, and just different things, but we recommend that you at least look into these and familiarize yourself with these. Next slide, please. You.
Yeah, okay. So as Tony was saying, you have every right to look at your child's phone. You should always know the passcode to their device and to their Apple or Android accounts. That is your responsibility as a parent, to be monitoring their phones to make sure that they are safe and that you are keeping them safe. I am a parent. I am a parent of a teenager. I know the passcode to my child's phone. I know the passcode to my child's Apple ID account. And the rule in our house is the day that I cannot access any of that information because the passcodes have been changed, then the phone goes away. But there are also parental controls that you can set. I know for iPhone, I'm not sure for Android, where my child cannot change those passcodes. So at the end of this, there will be some links on how to set those parental controls. But as a parent, you should always have access to your child's phone. And like I said, there needs to be consequences. If you're not able to get in that phone, the consequences are they don't get the phone until you can get into it. They don't own that phone. You have the responsibility as a parent to monitor them and to be in charge of that device. And if you're not, and your child is placed in danger, you're responsible. If your child does something illegal or to place somebody else in danger, as their parent, you are responsible. So I encourage you all to make sure that you have access to your children's phone. Next slide. So as we talked about, there's screen time and app limits, hidden files and apps, content restrictions, privacy settings, web search restrictions. You can prevent passcode changes, require location at all times. So this is for an iPhone. Again, there is a link for Android at the end of this presentation that will show you how to do this. But these are the metrics that are on the iPhones to help parents monitor their children. You should be accessing this screen time on their phone, and you should be looking at each one of those and tailoring that device to your child, depending upon their age and what they're involved in. So it's really important to look, but you have the ability. I mean, I can lock my child's phone down when they're in trouble. I lock it down and they get Snapchat for 1 minute, which makes them really angry, but that's just the way it is. So you have that ability to put those controls on that device to help protect your children. Next slide.
So parents, we appreciate, all of this. There's a lot of information. But it's important that you have this background knowledge so you're able to protect your student. So we have contracted with a company called Smart Social, and I have attached the website for Smart Social, and it's really an outstanding company that provides support for parents, students, and staff. But I really want to talk about the resources for our parents. There's over 450 resources that parents can tap into on this social media platform. All parents at this time have access to this amazing resource. And there's also a bi-monthly newsletter that's shared via Parent Square. So be looking for that. We've already shared some information about Smart Social, but we really want you to dial in to the information and the resources that can support you in parenting in this day and age. It's very challenging. I think we came from a place of, we have to let our children have phones so we can be able to text them and get a hold of them and know where they are. And so it started off to be this like safety, thing. And then it's evolved into, we just didn't realize the power of these phones, and because they are mini computers. And students have so much access to so many different things. And as parents, we need to tone it down, and we need to help our students with navigating all of this information. Quite frankly, it's over the top. So please look into Smart Social, because it can be a resource for you parents. And next slide. And what we want to do now is just have you just take 30 seconds and think about, as a parent, what's just one next step you could take, just one thing that you could implement tonight or tomorrow to help your child understand just the latitude of this responsibility in having a cell phone. Next slide. And so at this point in time, we'd like to open it up for questions. And so we're going to go ahead and if you want to ask a question, you have to raise your hand. If you look at the bottom of your computer screen, there's an icon that says raise hand. So if you'd like to ask the panel a question, we will do our darndest to answer that question. So go ahead. Any of us can answer. We'll decide who will answer the question based on what the question is asked.
And Marianne, it looks like we have a question from Chris Reddy.
Oh, great.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I was just calling in to say, to share that in the Smart Social platform, once parents are registered, they can search for iPhone or Android, and it will give them directions for their child's device, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, for how to set up those parental controls and what their options are. And there are a lot of resources. I heard mentioned that there are platforms where students or children are being asked to participate in inappropriate activities, and every single web platform that you can think of has a video about it, so that you don't have to rely on your children to tell you about how the platform works or where things are. So it's an excellent resource, and I would highly encourage all parents to jump on that platform, register. The account's free. It's provided by the relationship between Napa Valley Unified School District and Smart Social, and just start exploring all of the incredible resources they have.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Looks like we have time for a few more questions. You could just raise your hand and we can go ahead and unmute you if you'd like, if you have any questions. I don't see anything yet, Marianne, at the moment. No.
That's okay. I'm sure people are absorbing all the information that was just shared with them, and they're probably going, oh my goodness, we have work to do.
Yes. Oh, it looks like we have Miss Anne Vallerga with a question. Hi, Anne.
Hi, this is maybe more of a comment, but I just want to say thank you for hosting, and thank you to everyone that took time to join tonight. I feel like I learned a lot, not just as a principal, but as a parent. And I'm doing some thinking about how I support my own kids. So thank you. And thank you to all the parents in the Silverado community who've already partnered with us on what safety looks like for students online.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
So much. Thank you. Is there any other questions tonight that anyone else would like to add? And like Anne said, we do appreciate your time so much. Marianne, at the moment, I don't see anything else.
All right. We're going to go ahead and close out our webinar.
Marianne,
yes.
Can we just show the resources slide real
Oh,
quick?
sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Megan, can you forward to the next couple slides? There's 2 slides left.
Yeah, so for the parents, you know, thinking about, oh, I got to search in Google and all that to figure out. I put some quick little links in here for you. These are our main social media platforms that we're dealing with. So the links, you just click on it and it's literally tips on, and these are directly from the applications themselves. So they're guides for parents, so that you know what to look for, so that you understand what your child is doing on that platform. And then the last one is, like I said, it's the full movie link for that Child 2.0 video that we saw. And then the last slide, these were just some step-by-step guides that I had found to put some quick links on, but it sounds like Smart Social probably is going to be your best bet. I know the one for the iPhone, it shows step-by-step, but I would encourage you to use the Smart Social since it's available to you. It's free, and they will probably have the most current and updated information on there for you. And then obviously, if anybody ever has any questions, Tony McIntosh and I are always available at the police department to answer any questions that parents may have regarding social media. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to share my gratitude to our Napa Police Department. Thank you, Darlene and Tony. Viviana, thank you for launching us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, interpreters. Thank you, Drew. And thank you, parents, especially parents that have hung in here for the last hour to learn more about how they can protect their child. So we're going to go ahead and close out the evening.
Hey, Marianne, we have a hand raised.
Oh, okay.
Jenny Lynn. Hi, Jenny. Thank you, Drew.
Hi, sorry, I'll make it really quick. My name is Jenny, and I'm a parent of a child at Silverado, and I am very grateful for all this information. It was wonderful, so thank you for all of your efforts. My question, I guess, would be, is there going to be some sort of initiative to give this information to students as well?
Yes, we can adapt and share this with our student bodies. We just have to figure out how to do so, what venue to get into the school sites and the classrooms to share this information. Yes, that would be a absolute next step, Jenny. Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much, Jenny. And I think we can take another comment if there's any other comments before we close. Okay. Well, like Marianne said, thank you all so much for attending today. Thank you for to all our panelists and especially our parents that have listened to all the information tonight. This recording will be up in our NVUSD YouTube channel in the next day or so. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. Marianne, anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, just thank you everybody for your time this evening, and to be continued.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.